Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got Anthony. What's up, man?
What's going on? How we doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time.
Hell yeah.
So, where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born in California, but I lived pretty much most of my life in the Hudson, Nashua, New Hampshire area.
How did you go from California over to New Hampshire?
My mom and dad were married at a younger age out there, and then they had moved to South Carolina where my dad was, and then my mom left my dad from South Carolina up to New Hampshire, and this is where pretty much where I've been most of my life.
What's it been like growing up?
Um, Not bad, probably decent life, you know. Met my dad when I was in my 20s. I was raised by my stepdad. Not a bad life, you know.
Were you getting into trouble at all?
Maybe a little bit growing up, you know, here and there, you know. I was basically like the black sheep of my family, I guess you could say. My sister did good in school. I did decent. I graduated high school. I did a little bit of college here and there, but for the most part, you know, I got in my fair share of trouble off and on throughout life, you know, and then in my 30s, late 30s, I joined the Hells Angels.
And what was it like joining the Hells Angels? I mean, so how did you even
I
get
mean,
introduced to the Hells Angels?
well, it started off, I was a bouncer at a nightclub, you know, just doing security. And one of their support clubs, the Chieftains, would come in regularly. And I ran into those guys and got along with those guys. And then I ended up hanging out with them. And I actually started off by joining them. You know, I met them, and then I was interested in like how they were as like a group, you know, the brotherhood, you know. So I hung out with them, and I got a Harley. Before that, I rode like, you know, street bikes and enduros and stuff. And
Yeah.
then I bought a Harley. My first ever Harley was a Sportster, and I went with them. And I'm a big dude, so my Sportster, I look like a damn gorilla football, you know.
Were people with you because you had a Sportster?
Oh, they used to all the time. They're like, dude, you it looks like a gorilla football when I see you going down the road. I was on a 1200, and then you know, I just towards like the end of my prospecting, I ended up getting a Dyna.
That's
And
what I got. I got a Dyna.
yeah, I had a Dyna lowrider, and I rode that towards the end of prospecting with the Chieftains. I prospected 9.5 months with them, and then I ended up becoming a member. And of course, I got introduced to Health Angels as a prospect of the sport club. You know what I mean? You know, I became a member, and then I just, as time went on, which I wasn't even a member more than maybe 8 months of the Chieftains, and I was like, you know what, I want more. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go places. You know, because the
Yeah.
Chieftains, I mean, we could go to Norway because there's a charter in Norway, you know, and there's the mother charter in Massachusetts, but then, and I was in New Hampshire, but I was like, man, I want more, you know, and I got along with some of the Hells Angels, so I just decided to step up, and I went Nomads, New Hampshire.
You're with this other club. What's the process like? Do you go up to a Hells Angels, say, listen, I want to try to start joining you guys?
Well,
Like
what
what
I
was
did is there was guys that were in other support clubs that I had prospected with that I came up with,
Yeah.
and they ended up, you know, stepping up with the Nomads in New Hampshire, and I seen them at a Halloween party that, you know, was hosted by one of the in-state charters, 81 charters, and all us support club guys would go to those parties. So I seen them there, and I took them aside, and I just had said, hey man, what's it like? You know, is it as bad as people say it is? Like, is it as extreme as it is? You know what I mean? Like, what are the rules, you know? And
Yeah.
he's like, well, if you're really, he's like, it hasn't been too bad, you know? I mean, it's winter time. We're not too super busy, you know? We don't do too much, you know? We could just help out around the clubhouse and stuff. He said, if you want, I could talk to the president, you know, and, you know, see how you come up, talk to him and see what he says. So that weekend I went up and I hung out with them. I talked to the president. You know, I was like, hey, I'm really interested. You know, I want to do more. I'm interested in the brotherhood, really. You know, that's why I joined the Chieftains. And he said, well, all you got to do is go to your club and, you know, drop your and tell them you're stepping up. You know, and they shouldn't have a problem. If they do, you let us know, but they shouldn't have a problem with you leaving to come to us.
Walk me through the day that you go to the support club and tell them you want to step up and be a Hells Angel.
All right. So basically, I just, you know, it was like a regular meeting that we would have. I just, during our meeting, I said, hey, you know, when it came around to be me, You know, I mean, I basically took one of the guys aside and said, "Hey, I got some important information I got to talk about, like right off." You know, so they came to me and they brought me in the room and they go, what do you got, Anthony?" I said, "Well, I'm dropping my stuff. I'm step up to be a nomad." Of course, they're like, "Do you understand what you're doing?" Like, I go, "Yeah, I talked and you know, I just want more. You know, I got nothing against you guys. You guys will always be my brothers. You know, this is where I got my start, but I want more." And they said, "Well, hey, good luck." And then I dropped my stuff, and they let me sit in for the rest of the meeting. You know, because I've been with them. You know, and then
Yeah.
but then that was it. You know, then I went on to become a Hell's Angel.
So did you have to hang around first before you got your prospect patch?
I did not because I came like because they obviously did their homework. They talked to like one of the guys from Lowell had known me, one of the members there, he had known me, and then one of the guys in my charter had known like the president of my charter for a long time because he grew up around them and stuff. So I didn't, and since I was in a prospect club, I didn't have to, like a support club, I guess you could say. So I
So
became a prospect right off the rip and started my time November. It was November of 2018.
so you walk in, it's the beginning of winter, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And they hand you a prospect cup.
yep.
Now, what does it feel like when you put on the cup?
It's pretty amazing, man. You know what I mean? Like I mean, it was a lot of work. I won't kid you. You know what I mean? I mean, it was a lot of work in the to prospect for the Chieftains. You know, it was a lot of work to do that. You know, I dedicated basically my whole life to it. You know, like I was at the clubhouse all the time. Anytime a member needed me, I was available. You know, and then I just transferred all that to the Hells Angels. Did the same thing. You know, I gave them my life. You know, I was always available, and you know, anytime a member was traveling, I would say, "Hey, I want to go." You know,
Did you have a family at the time and did you have a job?
I did. I had a full-time job. I was married. I have two boys that are now actually 12 and 18. Um, you know, and I was married, but you know, the life isn't exactly easy if you don't know how to balance. So I ended up divorced. You know, I still talk to my ex-wife and stuff. I see my kids on a regular basis still, you know.
Was it the strain of being in the club that like took a toll on your relationship?
I think it was like because when I was prospecting, I said, "Hey, you know, when I'm done prospecting, I won't have to go to everything. I won't have to do all of this." But you know, like I didn't really think about it fully, I guess you could say, in my head, because like as a prospect, you go and you stand outside, like you stand at a burn barrel, you stand at a gate. You know, you're not allowed inside the clubhouse to enjoy the parties and festivities and stuff like that. You're basically security at events. You know what I mean? Like you stand in front of a gate, stand in front of a clubhouse, whatever. You know, you work inside the clubhouse. You know what I mean? Helping out the members and then you know. So then when I became member, it was like now you know what I mean. I get to enjoy everything. Like you know what I mean. So, and like doing the traveling and you know like I get to be inside and I get to do all the good stuff. So it's basically I became member and like then I just went everywhere. I was still never home.
How long did it take you to become a member?
I was a year and 2 weeks.
Now, what was it like? Walk me through the day that you get your patch.
It was you know, it was like a typical meeting or whatever, except they brought us in and basically just said, "Hey, you're a Hell's Angel member now. You know, you're no longer a prospect." And you know, they basically told us, you know, what now was expected of us, and you know, like there's like a probationary type period as a new brother, you know.
Oh, so even though you're a full patch member, you still are on like a probationary period.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because you're still a new member until you make like a year. You know what I mean? You're considered a new member, and like, you know, if I mean, you could fuck up, you know, but like, which I didn't think was possible. How you fuck up being a 1%er, right? You know?
Yeah, I mean, depends on how you look at it, right?
Yeah. But
Now, did
at that point, then I represented my charter. You know what I mean? Like I represented them as a prospect, and now I represent them as a member. You know what I mean?
did people treat you different once you got your patch?
Yeah. They definitely get like treated, you get treated differently as a prospect for a Hells Angels motorcycle club. You know what I mean? Like the 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 support clubs treat you different. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the guys I prospected with and I was like members with of like the sport clubs, they treat you differently because like now you're the cream of the crop, you're the top of the chain. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then as becoming a Hells Angel member, like people want to buy you drinks, people want to like do stuff with you, they want to hang out with you. Like I don't know, like they think like you're their best friend or something, and if they get in trouble or something, they can come to you or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Maybe, I don't know, right? There's like a mythology about members
Yeah.
of the Hells Angels. And
Yeah.
do you see that? Like people are attracted to that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like women are attracted to that more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess it carries like a bad boy image. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, is there a rule with tattoos once you become a member?
Well, I think what it was is if you had ink, there was a tattoo you had to get, like the club tattoo you had to get. But like if you didn't have ink, you weren't like required to get it, you know? And then like my charter, there was no rules as far as any other club tattoos. Like my charter, like each charter has like their different rules and stuff as far as that goes. But yeah, so you had to get the one like the charter ink. You know what I mean? You have to get that within 24 hours of becoming a member. You know what I mean? So I got like that the next day. I went and got that tattoo, but they didn't really do too many rules otherwise. And then of course, you know, me being all full in whatever, you know, I was 8 months into the club. We went to a run, and I went and got death heads on the side of my head.